Assalamu alaikum and welcome to KFtalks, where we aim to represent Muslim sisters from varying communities. We will delve into their struggles and aspirations in the Western world and how they serve Lady Fatima, peace be upon her, in all they do. This podcast aims to provide a safe platform for us to delve into and voice our thoughts on issues that may not usually be readily and openly discussed in our communities. My name is Aya and I am your host today. The rates of divorce within many communities are on the rise, and with each case being unique in its difficulty. With me today is Ilwiya, a student of Islamic Studies. Assalamu alaikum, Ilwiya.
Walaikum assalam.
Please, could you share with us your experience and everything that has happened to you, and share your story with us?
Sure. So, I was married 2 years ago. I stayed in the marriage for a couple of months, and then I did a fasakh, which I didn't know what it was at the time, and I'm so thankful that I do know what that hukum is, and I find it very important for the rest of the girls and boys as well to know about it because I find it's quite beneficial. So, there are different types of fasakh, so I'm not going to go into detail with that, but I am going to be focusing more on the one that I went through. So what happened was the marriage was based on lies, um, and it can be any lie that you have gotten married based on. So if it's like a condition, then you would have the right for fasakh because it would be considered deception. And fasakh basically means annulment of the marriage contract. So, so in the masail of the sheikh that I'm following, my marja, sorry, they've given an example. It's what they usually use, the same example. So if someone comes as a teacher because you want a teacher, and then you later on find out that he was actually an engineer, then you can uh, like divorce him through fasakh, basically. Um, so like it can be something as simple as that, or it can be age. If your requirement is like someone who's, I don't know, 25, and then he comes and says, yes, I'm 25, and then later on you find out that he's actually 30, and you don't want to proceed with this marriage, then you can just stop it right there. Um, so yeah, you would just say a sentence, and obviously with the full niyyah, and that would end the marriage, and you'd have to go through iddah just like you would with a normal divorce and with a khula.
However, you are entitled to all of your rights, unlike with the khula where you need to give up your rights in order to leave. It's not like that. You deserve to receive all of the rights that you should receive, just like with a talaq. And by that, like, I mean the mahar and things like that. I do think it's important to mention that if you can come to terms with it, or it's not something like, it's not such a big thing for you, it's a minor issue, it's not really much of a big, problem, then by all means, do your best, be sweet, be kind, be patient, work together to overcome the difficulties. It's a test from Allah and you'll be rewarded greatly for trying your best. But there is a red line to everything, and if they've crossed the line of how much they've lied to you, then you have that option, yani. Um, yeah. So just wanted to say also that um if you choose to stay, then you can't later on leave using the fasakh for the same reason, because you've agreed to staying while knowing about it, unless there was something else that you didn't know about and then you found out, if that makes sense. So like if there was something else that they had lied about and then you found out that they had lied about something different, then that's a different situation. But if you choose to stay after knowing that they've lied about something, then you can't later on leave and just like change your mind afterwards. So be wise with your decision and stick to it, basically. um the same thing also applies if you leave, you go through the enter period, and then you decide to go back again. you have knowledge of it, so it's no longer a deceptive issue which annulment applies to, if that makes sense. Yes, I just wanted to put that out there. Also, just a side note, I fully understand why scholars would not want this to be a hukum that's so spread between people, because clearly it's so simple and easy to do that it can be used very lightly, and marriage is not to be taken lightly at all. So I will insist that if the situation is fine and it's not such a big issue, then please do, um, like, don't just go and do fasakh. Like, try your best, and but if it's something that's really unacceptable and you just like, instead of basically having to go through that whole process of khula, because they do make it a really long process, because they are trying to, see if it's possible, by they I mean the scholars, they try and see if it's possible to get the two to get along, like, just hopefully maybe we can find a way out of this, without needing to actually break off the marriage and stuff like that. They basically try and like save the marriage, and when that doesn't work, then they finally give you a khula. But that is like a really lengthy, very tiring, and long process. I know because I've heard of like a lot of stories. This is very simple, very to the point, very it's very easy to do, and that is, I think, why not many people necessarily know about it, and also they try and keep it like a low thing. So um yeah, and it is always best to just double check with scholars. So don't just do it because, oh, brilliant, the situation fits. No, even I, while fully knowing that it applies to my situation because I did my research on it, and also like I double checked with my family, I double checked with, like, I reread all of the books and stuff like that. I still went to a hakim shari'i, so just a scholar who like is knowledgeable in this field, um just and like just asked him about the situation, just so that I'm fully sure that what I'm doing is right, and I actually do have the that option. And even then, at the time, they had said that yes, you do, but um maybe we can get to sort this out, maybe, but the next day I did the fasakh. So even while knowing that the situation is fully set for this, it's still best to like go and double check, just in case. Don't do anything like here and there. These are ahkam from Allah. They are, you need to use them wisely. It's not a game. Yeah. So about how easy it is, it's quite interesting how some people reacted like it's so, like, afterwards, um when they found out about the whole, like, it happened all of a sudden. So I don't blame them, but it's interesting how, like, it's so new to us. We wouldn't expect like breaking off a marriage to be so simple, but it is, because what was done is so big in Allah's eyes. Lying is nothing small, and Allah. So it kind of feels right for there to be such a simple, hassle-free way of leaving a liar, if that makes sense. Um, because what they've done is so big, it does deserve, for someone who's fallen into that trap, something very simple and small to be done in order to get away from it. That's, I think, my opinion, and how I would explain um how I got out of it so easily, and how that is even possible. Like, how like you get those people who question, like, how the hell is this hukum even here? Why does this exist, kind of thing. So that's the way I would explain it from my perspective and how I saw things went. Lying is not something small in Islam, and for someone who needs to get out of that, they deserve something simple and easy to use in order to get out of it.
Thank you for that. Just
Yes,
regarding, what you went through, you mentioned that you can fasakh, which is divorce. Does that mean annulment of a
yeah,
marriage?
yeah.
Okay, fine. Right.
Or
So when you
dissolution of the marriage contract, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Just regarding your own experience, you mentioned dishonesty and that annulment can happen if there has been dishonesty in the relationship. So if the contract does not match the reality, you can
Yeah.
then annul that marriage. In your experience, what is your experience? What exactly happened that first of all made you want to break off the marriage, and second of all gave you that right to annulment? What happened with you?
So of course, it's very important to in the khutbah period, so like the before the engagement, before the marriage, all of that, to ask questions about the person, to speak with the person. I find all of that is obviously necessary because you need to know what you're going into, of course. So
Mhm.
I had asked a couple of questions, and um, obviously they had answered. And then also after the marriage, what happened was I found out that some of the answers to the questions I had asked were not true. They were lies basically. And
Mhm.
so I obviously didn't know about this hukum. I could have used it there and then if I did know about it, but because I didn't know about it, I stayed a couple months later, and then later on, when it reached a point where it's like, okay, I can't do this anymore, I spoke to my family about it, and they had told me, "But this is deception. You have the right for fasakh." And so that kind of opened a new like path for me. Like I wasn't ever expecting myself to think, okay, I can actually leave, and very easily as well. Like subhanallah, Allah's given us a way out of everything if we know the ahkam well. That's why it's very important to be knowledgeable in your deen. I find it very important to study your deen and religion and all of that. Allah's given you a way out of every possible like hardship that you'd go through. So he's given a very easy way out, and yeah. So alhamdulillah, I decided to go with the fasakh and annul the marriage.
Alhamdulillah. Yeah, I'm glad
Alhamdulillah,
you found out about that ruling, and then it helped you find your way out of a difficult situation that you were in.
alhamdulillah.
Excuse me. When in your relationship, and of course, you said it was a few months. I'm sure it must have been a very difficult few months for you. You mentioned that in the beginning you didn't speak to anyone about it, you didn't say anything, and then you said when it got too much, you spoke. When did you feel like you really needed to seek help? So, of course, like the details of what happened, so like when exactly did you feel like you reached a point where this is it, I really need to seek help? And how did you then go on about that? You mentioned speaking to your family, but what's that step you took? Because of course there are people that might struggle to even make that initial first step of seeking help. So what did you do there?
So throughout, I kind of felt like, okay, this is my duty to stay. Like it's what Allah wants me to do. He wants me to stay, go through this hardship, and try and fix the problem. But as time went by, I felt like, okay, the problem would ease a little bit, but then it would come back and even stronger. Um, so there was just like phases of it becoming better and then becoming hard again and then better and hard again. But the time that it was better was very little, and every time it came back harder. So it was just very difficult to deal with. Like I said, I tried not to tell anyone anything because I've always heard like, couple problems should stay between the couples, because then if it gets wider, then it gets, it spreads a lot and it can affect in like a lot of ways. So I tried my best to, like minimize the whole situation and just try and keep it in. I didn't mention it to anyone. I didn't say anything to anyone. Um, simply because I felt like, okay, this is what I'm supposed to be doing, and just patience and go through. But then there was a point when he's the one who told me that I don't think I can like I don't think this problem is fixable. I don't want to fix it. And that's when I was like, okay, khalas, like I'm sorry, I can't do this anymore. I want to speak to my parents to try and see a way out of this and see how we can solve the problem. And that's when I went to my family. I spoke to them. I only gave them a little bit of detail because I didn't really want to, like I said, cause a bigger issue than like it's needed. And that's when they told me that this isn't fixable, you can't really fix it. And if um like if this really affects you, then you do have a way out. And we like will obviously be here for you. So yeah,
Alhamdulillah, shukr, alhamdulillah that
alhamdulillah.
of course you have such a supportive family that was with you through this whole thing and they helped you find a way out. And I know you mentioned at the beginning that had you known about this ruling earlier, then you would have taken that step earlier. But of course, alhamdulillah,
Yep,
shukr, it happened when it did.
alhamdulillah.
Whilst you were, during the marriage and following the marriage, what sort of mechanisms did you use to help you cope with the pressure, the stress, and I'm sure the pain that you went through during that period? What did you do to help yourself?
So I did, of course, it's kind of like something that I've grown up doing. We obviously pray with and speak with our Imma. We speak to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We speak to Imam Zaman, read Quran, prayers, all of that stuff. But I do feel like within that time, I felt a bit distant, and I'm so thankful I'm no longer like that. Alhamdulillah, I actually feel a lot strongly and a lot closer to Allah because I kind of feel like that hukum was a ni'mah, so it was a blessing, and that kind of strengthened my aqidah and my iman afterwards.
Okay,
Um,
alhamdulillah, shukr. So, of course, knowing that from what you're saying, communicating with the imams, communicating with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at all times, that is what has helped you, alhamdulillah. And of course, there is no better way to help yourself than through communication with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, with the imams. And of course, also when and if needed, seeking professional help in certain scenarios. Alhamdulillah, shukr, you could help yourself purely by talking to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is a blessing in itself. Alhamdulillah, of course. This is something I feel like that we take for granted. So um in your opinion, um of course, because there are so many divorces within our community and they are happening unfortunately more, they're more common now, and each story that you hear is so upsetting, it's so heartbreaking, it really makes you think about how these marriages happened. How did they end? If they started so beautifully, how could they end in such a bitter way? What,
yeah.
in your opinion, and in your experience, is the best way to raise awareness within our communities about the foundations of a successful marriage, of perhaps even being honest in the beginning, because of course you managed to get out of this difficulty you were in purely because it was based on dishonesty. So how do you think we can raise awareness? What's your best way, in your opinion, to raise awareness about it?
So this podcast in and of itself is very useful, and thank you guys for doing it. Um, but just speaking out, I feel like is very important. But there is, I feel like, a lot of people who don't know that there is resources out there that you can go, you can learn, you can study. That all of it is out there, and you just need to go and look for it. Um, I know there are a lot of courses. I know there's a lot of books about this. Just talking in general about how to choose the right person, how to go about a good um, marital life together. All of these things, they're all there. Yeah, like um, from a religious perspective. Um, so there's that, of course. Um, and yeah, the people who have gone through an experience, I feel like a lot of them try and just like maybe not speak about it, maybe hide it. I think it's important to speak about it, which is also why I'm here today. And about the dishonesty part, I feel like if people knew more about fasakh, then it goes both ways. Problems would be less, the dishonesty would be less, and also people who fall into a trap because of dishonesty would also have a way out. Um, Simply because if the person who's come to speak to so like when they go and ask for their hand in marriage, they wouldn't lie about things if they knew how easy it is to actually leave the marriage. I mean the other side. So if they knew how easy it is, then maybe they wouldn't do it so often. Maybe they'd be a bit more truthful, knowing that okay, if this person finds out later on, then they could literally just say a sentence and it will be all over. Um, and I mean, a mu'min is everything but not a liar, so it's very important for people to be honest.
Definitely. And I think, of course, within many communities, there are always, some personalities and some characters that could improve. But obviously, every single one of us has their own struggle and their own way and their own knowledge about how they need to improve themselves. And I guess as a community in general, I feel or I believe that we can improve the way we handle and go on about marriages and, as you said, the ta'aruf period, which is the getting to know each other period. Um, I feel like it could be handled a lot better if there was a lot more honesty involved. Um, and I was also wondering, of course, you've been through this difficulty. You had the difficulty during the marriage. You had the difficulty as you were leaving. Alhamdulillah, shukr, you knew that you could rely on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You had that yaqeen, that complete faith that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is there for you. Did you face any struggles after you annulled the marriage, after the community perhaps found out that you are no longer married? Did you face any difficulties in there, and if so, what were they and how did you deal with them?
So from the perspective of okay, I'm now no longer married, but I was in a relationship before. I feel like that hasn't caused me any problems. Alhamdulillah, this community, I feel like it's maybe changed a bit and changed for the better, alhamdulillah. Because I used to always hear like, oh my God, she's a divorced person, and like it's such a big label on the person. But uh, alhamdulillah, like that didn't happen at all, and actually people were they would understand my situation. They would and I even got a couple of calls for like asking my hand in marriage again and all of that stuff. So alhamdulillah, from that perspective, I didn't really get see a problem. But what there was lies again from the other side, which was really spreading in the community. But I didn't talk back, if that makes sense. So like if someone comes up to me and tells me a lie about something, um, I mean obviously related to what happened with my ex, I'd say my side of the story just to the extent of defending myself, if that makes sense. So if someone's coming and saying that, oh, you made him struggle, I'd be like, no, actually it's not like that. I didn't do anything to cause him any trouble. Um, and that's it. I wouldn't actually speak about him and everything that he made me go through, just because I feel like it's not necessary, and Allah will deal with it in on the day of judgment. He knows everything that's happening. He can see everything that's happening, and um, alhamdulillah, if I do need to speak to anyone, then I'll just turn to him. And it's so beautiful, but you don't even have to actually say words. You could just, like just be there, like in the mindset, and he's listening and he knows without you even speaking. So you can just cry to him for help. Alhamdulillah. So I actually never used to feel that, but after what I did go through, I feel like no matter how much you explain to someone, they still, of course, they'll understand. Some people won't, but some will. And I feel like still it's not like how someone themselves go through, because everyone's living a different life. Everything affects a person differently, and everyone's fighting their own battle. So you can't expect someone to put themselves in your shoes and fully understand what you're going through, but you can be fully open with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Alhamdulillah.
Actually, this ayah that I just remembered, which I fell in love with at the time because it literally felt like it matches my case perfectly. It's ayahs 2 to 3 of Surah Al-Talaq. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ومن يتق الله يجعل له مخرجا ويرزقه من حيث لا يحتسب ومن يتوكل على الله فهو حسبه إن الله بالغ أمره قد جعل الله لكل شيء قدرا. And whoever has taqwa of Allah, He will make a way out for him and provide him from where he does not expect. And whoever puts his trust in Allah, He will suffice him. Surely Allah will accomplish His purpose. Allah has appointed a measure for everything. SubhanAllah, just the way that I felt like a whole new path was paved out for me was just amazing. Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah, shukr. That's such a beautiful way of putting how much we can rely on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with quite literally everything that is happening in our lives. I think also um, what you mentioned is very noble of you, how, you know, if anybody sort of brought comments to you about your former husband and, you know, any accusations that may have come your way, you simply clarified and did not add fuel to the fire. And
Yeah,
alhamdulillah,
just
shukr,
because I feel like it's not necessary. It's just going to cause a bigger issue than is needed. But they are still continuing, by the way.
but you know, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is always there, and you know, he will never let anybody go, whether they're struggling or not. He will always be there for us. So I guess you're doing the right thing, and you know, you're making the right choices, it seems. And I suppose
Alhamdulillah.
I feel like a lot of members of the community can really learn from your story, and the way you have remained so patient throughout all of this, and as well as you know, remaining true to your faith and not faltering in your faith in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which is the most important thing of all. um, I would also say, you know, like, from what you're saying, it seems your inspiration and your almost motivation and source of strength is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Am I correct in saying that?
Yes, it was Ridullah. So I went in with the mindset of, okay, this is, for the sake of Allah. Obviously, Allah loves those who are married, loves those who follow His Sunnah. I know there are a lot of people these days who aren't really inclined to getting married. They just don't want to because, it's they obviously see all of these problems that are happening, and some of them would even come up to me and be like, okay, so you've been through this. You don't want to get married anymore, do you? I'm like, no, of course I want to get married. Like, I don't consider that a proper marriage. A proper marriage must like it should be very beautiful because it's Allah's sunnah. And He's obviously the one who's created us. He's got the best plan for us, so we should follow all the halals and all the harams that He's given us. Um, so I went in and out with the mindset of, okay, this is what Allah wants. Actually, about leaving with the right mindset, I went through a struggle of deciding whether or not I should leave or not. I didn't know at the time if my test was to stay or was to leave. And but Alhamdulillah, I got the answer to that, and it is that if you are in a position where you can leave, but you are going through a hardship, and that hardship is affecting you so much that it's harming you, then Allah would want you to leave, because if you stay, then it's self-harm, and self-harm is haram. So you, I took on that, and that was the mindset that I had when I left. And also that also helped me afterwards. Like, it didn't take me long to go over everything, because subhanallah, it's just like all my emotions went, because the reason why I was in this marriage in the first place was because of Allah, and I obviously had feelings towards Him, because that is what you're supposed to have in a relationship. But when that ended, subhanallah, all feelings went. So I'm very thankful for that, alhamdulillah. But yeah, mindset is very important. So Allah is very it's like, if you follow that, then inshallah it will be like a guidance line, and it will help you make the right decisions, inshallah.
Alhamdulillah, shukr. And definitely, if you have Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in front of you at all times, guiding every decision, then your every decision will, inshallah, be the correct one. Um,
Inshallah.
you mentioned earlier that, alhamdulillah, shukr, you didn't feel that backlash from the community. You were worried about it, that, you know, you may be labeled or anything. Alhamdulillah, shukr, that you didn't. And I guess just something that I've derived from that is that there is always a silver lining within everything. You know, alhamdulillah, that you went through this experience. It has in a way shaped you, I guess, as a person. It has further developed your mindset, further developed and deepened your love for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, deepened your love for your faith, seeing as you're, mashallah, studying your faith. Alhamdulillah, there's a silver lining in everything. In every struggle we have, there is a lesson. In every lesson, there is another lesson. And alhamdulillah, it's amazing. And your situation actually reminds me of an ayah in the Quran. It's ayah 20 in Surah Taha, which says, Inni ma'akum asma' wa ara. So verily, fear not, verily I am with you, all hearing and all seeing. Your inspiration is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and you know that He was there for you at all times, and He mentions this in the Quran. And honestly, it's very inspirational. Your strength is very inspirational, and thank you so much, Ilwiya, for sharing your story with us. And thank you so much for joining us today. And I'm sure there is so much, so many people in our community that are really going to benefit from your story.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening in. Join us next week for part 2 with psychotherapist Sister Barak Hussein, where we will delve deeper into the psychology behind this topic.